Imagine a man who was told he was too deformed to be an actor. A man with an accent so thick, directors said he sounded like a machine. A man who started in a house with no running water and no toilet in a country shattered by war. Society had a box for Arnold Schwarzenegger. They wanted him to be a local policeman in a small Austrian village. But Arnold didn't just break out of the box. He smashed it into 1,000 pieces. He didn't just become a champion. He became the greatest bodybuilder to ever live. He didn't just become an actor, he became the highest-paid movie star in history. He didn't just enter politics, he became the leader of the world's 5th-largest economy. This is not just a story about muscles. This is a masterclass in the psychology of the impossible. This is the blueprint of a man who decided that no was simply a request to try harder. This is the unstoppable vision of Arnold Schwarzenegger. The village of AWOL, Austria, in 1947 was not a place of dreams. It was a place of survival. The air was heavy with the silence of a generation of men who had returned from a lost war with broken spirits. Arnold's father, Gustav, was one of them. He was a man of rigid, almost terrifying discipline. In the Schwarzenegger household, there was no such thing as a free meal. Arnold and his brother Meinhard were treated like soldiers in a private barracks. Every morning began with a race to the well for water. Every meal was preceded by grueling physical exercise. Gustav would foster a toxic rivalry between the brothers, often making them compete for his limited affection or for the first serving of food. This environment would have crushed most children. It would have turned them into bitter, small men. But for Arnold, it created a desperate, burning need to escape. He looked at the mountains surrounding his village and didn't see beauty. He saw a wall, and he promised himself that one day he would climb over it. One day, while trying to escape the suffocating atmosphere of his home, Arnold wandered into a local store. His eyes landed on a magazine featuring Reg Park on the cover. Reg was a former Mr. Universe who had transitioned into playing Hercules in movies. This was the spark. Arnold didn't just look at the pictures. He memorized the trajectory. Step 1, bodybuilding. Step 2, America. Step 3, movies. To his father, this was insanity. To the local villagers, Arnold was becoming a black sheep. They saw him lifting heavy rocks in the woods and thought he was losing his mind. But Arnold had discovered the secret of the vision. He realized that if you can see the destination with total clarity, the work required to get there ceases to be work. It becomes a joy. When Arnold turned 18, he entered the Austrian army. It was a mandatory service. But for Arnold, it was an obstacle. When the Mr. Europe Junior competition was announced in Germany, he knew he had to be there. The military denied his leave. So, in the middle of the night, Arnold crawled out of his barracks, snuck past the guards, and hopped a freight train. He arrived at the competition with literally nothing. He didn't even have posing trunks. He had to borrow a pair from a fellow competitor who had already finished. He walked onto that stage with a physique that shouldn't have been possible for an 18-year-old. He won. He was crowned the best in Europe. When he returned to the base, he was thrown into the brig, military jail, for a week. But he sat in that cold cell with a smile on his face. Why? Because the trophy was in his locker. He had tasted the first bite of the world, and he wanted the whole feast. When Arnold finally landed in Los Angeles in 1968, he was a giant in a land of strangers. He had a chest that measured 57 inches and a vocabulary that measured about 50 words. Joe Weider, the godfather of bodybuilding, had brought him over, but the money wasn't enough to live on. Arnold and his friend Franco Columbu didn't wait for a handout. They started European Brickworks. They marketed themselves as European Master Bricklayers. Despite being world-class athletes, they spent their days hauling heavy bricks in the California heat. This period is crucial to understanding Arnold. He was never too big for the work. He used the money from the bricks to fund his real mission, Gold's Gym. He turned the gym into a laboratory. He would train for 5 to 6 hours a day, pushing his body to the point of literal collapse. He famously said that the last 3 or 4 reps are what make the muscle grow. This became his metaphor for life. The growth happens only when you are in the pain zone. Arnold's dominance in bodybuilding wasn't just physical. He was a master of the mind game. Before the 1975 Mr. Olympia, he would systematically dismantle his rival's confidence. He would take his main rival, Lou Ferrigno, out to breakfast and tell him how small he looked. He would smile and joke while his competitors were sweating with anxiety. He knew that if he could win the battle in the dressing room, the battle on the stage was already over. He won the Olympia 6 years in a row, retired, and then, just to prove a point, came back in 1980 after a 5-year hiatus to win it a 7th time. The transition to Hollywood was the hardest set of his life. Agents told him his body was disgusting. They told him he looked like a monster. They told him that people like Dustin Hoffman and Al Pacino, shorter intellectual actors, were the future. Arnold ignored them. He worked on his accent, but he refused to lose it entirely. He knew his otherness was his brand. When he got the role of Conan, he spent months practicing swordplay until it was second nature. Then came the Terminator. James Cameron originally didn't want Arnold for the machine, he wanted him for the hero. But Arnold insisted that he understood the machine's psychology. He practiced stripping and reassembling guns blindfolded until he didn't have to look at his hands. He trained himself not to blink when firing a weapon. When the movie came out, Arnold didn't just become a star, he became a cultural phenomenon. He proved that what others called weaknesses, his size, his voice, his name, were actually his greatest weapons. By the 1990s, Arnold was the king of Hollywood. Terminator 2, Total Recall, True Lies. He was earning $25 million to $30 million per movie. But he felt the plateau again. He didn't want to just be an entertainer. He wanted to serve. In 2003, he announced his candidacy for governor of California on The Tonight Show. The political establishment laughed. They called him the governator. They thought it was a publicity stunt. Arnold used the same bricklayer work ethic. He studied policy for 18 hours a day. He used his charisma to bypass the media and speak directly to the people. He won. He took over a state that was practically bankrupt and navigated the complexities of global politics, climate change, and economic reform. He proved that the bodybuilder had a brain as powerful as his biceps. Today, Arnold Schwarzenegger is more than a man. He is a philosophy. He lives in a beautiful home, but he still wakes up at 5 a.m. to ride his bike to the gym. He doesn't have to, but he needs to. His story is the ultimate rebuttal to the word no. If you are sitting there today feeling like you are too old, too poor, too uneducated, or too different to succeed, look at the boy from Thal. He didn't have a map. He only had a vision. He didn't have a mentor. He had the iron. He didn't have luck. He had repetitions. The world is full of people who will tell you why you can't do something. They are the background noise of history. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the proof that if you can see it and you are willing to work for it, you can become anything. So, what is your vision? What is the mountain you've been afraid to climb? The weights are waiting. The stage is set. The only person who can stop you is you. If you enjoyed this story, like the video, share it with someone who needs motivation, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Hustle Chronicles for more inspiring videos.